I want to welcome everybody here today. Thank you again for being here and for being part of our Fall Representative Assembly. The coming year, 2018, promises to be an important year for our union, our members, and the students we serve. We once again face an external threat to the rights that we have under current law, and I will talk about what that means in just a moment. But I want to begin by noting that 2018 is also an election year, and our active involvement in campaigns up and down the ballot is critical. All of the statewide constitutional offices, from governor to auditor, are up for grabs, and we have an opportunity to elect people to those offices who are committed to public education and who will act in the best interests of educators and our students. We just came off an election this past November where we demonstrated what we can do when we're seriously involved in elections. We saw a record number of local associations get involved in local school board races. They not only endorsed more candidates than ever before, in some cases they recruited people, including our own members, to run. And that night, we had a smashing success. Of the more than 100 seats that we targeted, 85% of the candidates were elected to local school boards. And that included 14 of our own members, both active and retired. We showed that when we make the commitment, we can have an impact on the outcome of elections. We demonstrated that this year, and we need to do it again next year. Last month, I convened an emergency summit of local presidents to discuss the external threat that I mentioned earlier and the steps we need to take to deal with it. Once again, a politically driven legal challenge to our right and the right of other public employee unions to collect so-called fair share fees made its way to the U.S. Supreme Court. The case this time is called Janus versus AFSCME, and once again, the issue is whether we will be able to collect fair share fees from educators who choose not to join the union, but who enjoy the benefits of our representation at the bargaining table. Arguments are expected to be heard by the court in the early months of 2018, and a decision will be handed down in the spring or by the latest at the end of June. Before I talk about what this case could mean if a ruling goes against us, let me say strongly, and I cannot say this strongly enough, is that OEA existed before there were fair share fees, and that we will still be here after the loss of fair share fees. I want to be clear about that. OEA is not going away. Having said that, the stakes are high for us as educators, for us as advocates, for our students, and for us as the largest labor organization in Ohio, the Ohio Education Association. You've heard me say before, many times before, how much I love OEA. And I am not going to stand by and watch who we are and what we believe in be weakened by those who want to silence our voices, because that's what's going on. Janus is part of a broader agenda to weaken unions and destroy public education, brought to us by the same forces who gave us Senate Bill 5, Betsy DeVos, and ECOT. We know what's coming, and how we respond as an organization, as leaders, and as members in the months ahead will determine our fate. You know what happened in Wisconsin. You've heard it before, but let me remind you of the statistics. A union that once had 110,000 members today has about 30,000 members. The members of WEAC are now reduced to meeting with their administrators to confer on working conditions. They have virtually no bargaining rights. Pay has gone down, and professional standards have been lowered. They have no voice. But again, that is not going to happen in Ohio. That is not going to happen to OEA, because I don't think anyone in this room today or members across the state want their voices to be silenced. As I said earlier, Janus is part of a politically driven effort to weaken unions. And why are our unions under attack? Why? Because we're effective, and we're one of the few remaining counterbalances to the staggering income inequality that afflicts our country. Let's take unions rock, don't they? Yes, they do. Let's take a few minutes to reflect on what unions have meant to working families and this prosperity of the middle class in America. So, how have unions helped to raise living standards? Here are a few things we can point to. One, as the bumper sticker says, unions gave us the weekend. In 1870, the average work week for most Americans was 61 hours. After extensive labor organizing in the late 19th and early 20th century, there was sufficient political support in 1937 for the passage of the Fair Labor Standards Act, which led to a shorter work week and more leisure time. Why? Because there were unions. Two, when organized labor was at its peak between the 1940s and 1950s, more Americans than ever before received fair wages, and income inequality was at its lowest point. And three, during that same time when unions were strong, employer-based health coverage became widespread as unions bargained for health care. By 1950, half of all companies with less than 250 workers and 2/3 of the company with more than 250 workers offered some kind of health insurance. The simple fact is that unions have played a critical role in ensuring that working people in America, and not just union members, but all working people, are able to earn a decent wage with benefits and have the means to build a good life for themselves and their children. But as union membership has declined, and that's something to be celebrated. Yes, let's clap that. We need to celebrate who we are, always. But as union membership has declined, it has been increasingly difficult to keep wages rising. The earnings of private sector workers have been essentially stagnant for the past 3.5 decades. And for men who do not have a college degree and who do not belong to a labor union, their actual wages today are lower than they were in the late 1970s. For all the talk of the effects of globalization and technological change on stagnant wages, a study released last year by the Economic Policy Institute found that the real reason why income inequality has been growing is the decline of unions. According to the authors, and I quote, unions, especially in industries and regions where they are strong, help boost the wages of all workers by establishing pay and benefit standards that many non-union firms adopt. So, what can we do to weather the storm that we face? First, we must strengthen our personal bonds with each other and our members. If we are connected to each other, we have the chance to make the changes that will make OEA even stronger than we are now. One way we can do that is by having conversations with the members in our own locals. Let them know that you are there to support them as they reach, teach, and inspire Ohio students. When I first started teaching, my father, a retired lifetime OEA member, told me 4 things. 1, know your curriculum. 2, Becky, know your contract. 3, make friends with all of the staff in your building, both teachers and support staff, because they will be your support system. I listened to him and he was right. They became like my second family. Like all families, we didn't always get along, but when times got rough, we always came together. And 4, elections matter. We all know what we have been living through since the election of 2010 and the harmful things that election and others have brought us. That is why giving to FCPE is always important. And like I said before, there are tables outside the hall where you can contribute. Please fill out one of the forms when you can. But we don't have the luxury. We don't have the luxury of not asking every time for donations to FCPE every time a large group of OEA members gather together. We want to be able to help those who can help us, and FCPE is critical to our success in the 2018 elections. So my father isn't here today. He's back at home in Cuyahoga Falls. He's 88 now and not doing as well as he used to, but when I was home last week, one of the first things he did was ask me about what's happening in Columbus. What does he need to know? He is still engaged with what's going on. OEA members, so I want to thank my father. OEA members need to support each other because who better than a fellow member to know what is important to them or what their students need to be successful? OEA members need to feel valued and that their voices have meaning in decisions that will impact their students, their schools, and public education. When I first became president of the Copley Teachers Association, I thought I was the only president in the whole state, having the issues I was dealing with. That was true until I went to my first Service Council meeting and heard from other presidents who were having similar problems. I began to feel like that night at that Service Council meeting that I was now becoming a member of an even larger family. I was not alone anymore. OEA became relevant to me that night in ways that OEA never had before. I had new friends. I had people I could call and vent and talk to. Think about what OEA members have achieved lately. Our new educators put pressure on the state legislature to tell ODE to restructure RESA. OEA members on the Educator Standards Board have proposed changes to teacher evaluation that Senator Peggy Lehner will be introducing in a bill soon. OEA members have testified at the State House about testing and many other issues. Again, we elected more candidates to local school boards this November than ever before. And don't ever forget the millions of emails that were sent last January to Washington in order to derail the nomination of Betsy DeVos. When we stand strong and stand together, we will never be defeated. Recently, the members of the Portage County Education Association for the Developmentally Disabled spent more than a month on the picket line. They recently ratified a tentative agreement and have gone back to work this week. A number of us, including Scott, Tim, myself, spent some time on the picket line, And I heard those members say repeatedly that they felt supported by locals and members from all over the state in ways they never before knew existed. They felt connected to their union family and their community, and they want to build on what was begun in this strike, and together we will. These are some examples of what we have done, but like I said earlier, it is about the connections our members feel to each other and in turn to OEA that is most important. In order to stay strong, we have to connect with all members. They need to feel like they matter and that the family OEA is part of their lives. We built the strength of OEA long before fair share fee, and we will continue to thrive no matter the outcome of Janus. OEA existed as a strong union before fair share fees, and OEA is going to exist after. What happens is up to us. We control our fate. Every day when I come to work, I look up at those 3 letters on the top of our building, OEA. Over 124,000 members strong. We are going to continue to be that strong voice for our students, our members, and for public education. We are a family. We are OEA, standing strong because together we can. Thank you very much.